Uh, I was wondering how you felt the media, or even segments of the media, had handled uh, the COVID-19 pandemic, whether you felt it was done responsibly.
Oh, there's been confusion out there, and there've been confusing voices, and in our modern online world, there are networks of crazies. I mean, people worrying about 5G towers and Bill Gates implanting chips in people. I mean, there's all sorts of nuttiness out there. I think on the whole, the media have been okay. I mean, we had an absolutely ridiculous thing in the what the Sydney what is it the one of the Sydney Telegraph or one of those things where journalists, some journalists, there are not a lot of scientifically literate journalists out there. They've
Yes.
tended, a lot of the science journalists have gone because the companies can't afford them, and and there just aren't many of them. The good journalists, though, call you up and they ask you and they talk to you and they ask for explanations, and they've been fine. And on the whole, I've talked to people from Sky News, The Australian, Sydney Morning Herald, and so forth. All the people I've talked to have written reasonable articles and been fine to deal with. I've had no problem with them. There's been a kind of arguments from economists, some of the right-wing economists, that we shouldn't do the lockdown, that it's not merited. And early on, there was a lot of stuff saying, well, this is no worse than flu. Well, it is a lot worse than any flu we normally see. It's a horrible disease. And we think it may leave a lot of long-term sequelae in people who don't die from it. We don't know that yet.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's an important point. I don't know, what you've got to say on that, but I think that we tend to get caught up in fatality rates, critical fatality rates. So with the seasonal flu, we tend to look at about 0.1%. With this, once you take into account all asymptomatic people with the sample sizes we've got, like things like cruise ships, it's looking at about 1.4%, which is very high. But what people don't talk about is young people who contract it become very ill, and then we don't really know the lifelong effect in terms of morbidity and mortality that has effect in terms of lung function and things like that from having pneumonia.
Yes, we don't know that, and we won't know that for a long time, of course. I mean, I had whooping cough as a kid, for instance, very badly. I think it probably affected my respiratory function for the rest of my life. And it always appalls me when some of the anti-vaxxers won't vaccinate their kids against whooping cough, which is a highly lethal disease. But, all these elements are out there, and they're all rattling around, and they've got celebrities who know nothing about science but think they speak with authority on anything in there. And there's all sorts of craziness. We've got billionaires buying useless drugs, and, the whole insanity is out there of weirdness, but I wouldn't point a particular finger at the conventional media. I think on the whole they've been pretty good. There's a few things that have been pretty silly, but they've been quite soundly dealt with by people like Media Watch or the way they've been handled on Twitter feeds or whatever.